Welcome to the English with Kirsty podcast from www.englishwithkirsty.com. Here I'll be sharing with you tips, information and other learning resources so that you can improve your business English. Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of English with Kirsty. So this week, as I said, we're going to be continuing with the common mistakes. So we did 5 last week and the other 5 are going to be this week. So I'm just going to run through some of the mistakes that I often see and we'll talk about them, and then hopefully this will mean that if you have made these mistakes in the past, you won't make them again. So number 1, I see it all the time. It looks like an English word. It's not an English word. We talk about our phones, our iPhones, our mobiles occasionally, but never our handies, because that's not a word that an English person would ever use to talk about their phone. It just doesn't make sense to us. If something's handy, it means it's kind of convenient. It's useful. I've got a handbag and it's got lots of handy pockets in it, which make it easy for me to find things. If I live near to the shops, then it's handy if I forget something, I can go and buy some milk without having to go into the centre of town or something like that. So it's a way of describing something that's useful or convenient, but it's not a way of talking about our phones. So if you're talking about your number, you can just say my number, because it's obvious it's a phone number, or my phone number, but not my handy number. Okay, when you're talking about talking to people, you can say that you spoke to them or with them. Both of those are fine. But if you're telling somebody something, you tell them. So you don't tell to them. So you don't say I told to him that I would be late. It's just I told him that I would be late. Tell him to is different, because you're giving somebody a command. Then I told him to bring the papers with him for the meeting or something like that. If you tell somebody to do something, then you're giving them a command. You're giving them something that you want them to do. But you don't tell to someone. You just tell them. You can say something to somebody, but you can't tell something to somebody. Okay, number 3. And I often hear this at the end of lessons. We'll see us next week. And that's wrong, because it should be we'll see each other next week. Or I'll see you next week is fine as well. But you can't say we'll see us or we'll meet us. Anything like that. Those are wrong. It's got to be we'll see each other. And we wouldn't usually use meet in that way. We wouldn't say we'll meet each other, because that just sounds a bit strange if you're planning to meet someone. So yeah, you could say we'll meet up next week, or if it's a formal meeting, we'll have a meeting next week. But we definitely don't say we meet us next week. Okay, number 4 is slightly longer topic, and maybe I'll do something else on this at some point, but it's about the questions. We call them tag questions that go at the end of a sentence, and it's usually if you want to confirm something. So you think something is true, but you want to check with the other person to make sure that what you understand is correct. So I could say something like, you're coming to the meeting tomorrow, aren't you? So this aren't you is saying that you want the other person to confirm that what you think is right. So these sentences or questions have 2 parts to them. There's the statement, which in this case is you're coming to the meeting tomorrow. This is what I believe is true. And then aren't you is asking them if this is true. So there's like a positive and a negative. So in our sentence it's positive, you're coming to the meeting tomorrow. You are. And then the question at the end is aren't you? And the thing to remember with these is if it's a negative sentence, then it has to be the other way around. So you don't like fish. This is negative. You don't like fish, do you? So it's got to be balanced. One half has got to be positive sentence and the other half has got to be negative sentence. So the first one, you're coming to the meeting, aren't you? And the second one, you don't like fish, do you? So I know that other languages don't use this construction, and sometimes it confuses people a bit if you haven't done many of these. The tense has to match as well. So we didn't finish this conversation, did we? Is in the past, so the didn't and the did have to match. You've done this training already, haven't you? Again, both the tenses match there. You have, haven't you? So just remember that if you're making one of these sentences, you can't just sometimes some of my German customers just would say or at the end of the sentence, which you can't do here. You have to have two parts, and obviously it has to match the person that you're talking about. So all our sentences are with you, but it could be the manager has gone home already, hasn't she? So, you know, it could be he, she, it, we, they, anyone, and obviously it has to match there. So I may do something else about these tag questions, but that's basically how they work. And number 5 is compound nouns. Particularly languages like German have nouns that are made up of other nouns. And there are some compound nouns in English, but we don't have as many. Like, for example, bathroom. You've got bath and room and put them together and you've got bathroom and bedroom, things like that. But not all rooms with room on. Like, for example, if you say dining room, that's 2 words. But what I really wanted to say was that there are less compound nouns in English than in German, and you have to watch out for where you need to add a space. Sometimes compound nouns are hyphenated, but the ones that I'm talking about are the ones that are 2 separate words in English. So like birthday, present, that's always going to be 2 words, and it's not going to be hyphenated because essentially it is it's 2 words. Mailing list is one that I often see. Mailing list is 2 words. Kitchen table that's 2 words as well. So even though in your language there may be more compound nouns, you may know a word to be like mailing list to be 1 word, just make sure that you realize when in English they should be 2 words, because we don't have as many. Okay, so that was the other 5 things that I wanted to talk to you about this week. Don't forget that you can still win training, the interview and CV and Xing or LinkedIn training that I was talking about last week in episode 30. So if you want to do that, you can go to www.englishwithkirsty.com/podcast/episode 31 for this week's show notes page, and you can also send me a message from there. Or you can email me at kirsty@englishwithkirsty.com if there's anything you want to say about the podcast. And also, if you are enjoying this podcast, then why not subscribe? Because then you can make sure that you don't miss any episodes. I do always post out on social media when there's a new episode, but if you subscribe, then you don't have to do the work. And also, if you like it, then why not share with your friends? Because if you've got other friends who are learning English, they might enjoy it too. So either by telling them about it, or if you see my social media posts and like what you see, then it would be great if you could forward those or retweet those. That's really helpful, because then it means that new people get to find out about the show, and then hopefully it will help them as well. So have a good week and have fun learning English. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the English with Kirsty podcast. If you have any questions or comments, my email address is kirsty@englishwithkirsty.com, or you can go to www.englishwithkirsty.com/podcast, where you'll find information about the individual episodes.